Good evening, everyone. Listen, welcome to another episode of SIS Table Talk. My name is Monique Denton. I am the Chief Connector and founder of Sisters Inspire Sisters and also Embrace Your Cake, where we talk about and deal with all things that impact women, women entrepreneurs, women professionals. I am super excited about tonight's show. Not only do we have one of the SIS Network members, we have one of our 50 phenomenal women authors. We have Felicia Roberts, who is already an amazing Amazon best-selling author, known to everyone as Coach Fee. So listen, we're going to get right into this thing because this is a juicy topic. Okay, we are talking about divorce this evening and how to cope and how to manage. So, Coach Fee, could you just reintroduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Glad to be a part of the SIS Network. Glad to be here for Table Talks tonight. So I am Coach Fee. And listen, I am a divorce recovery coach. Okay. And so my passion is really built around helping women, courageous women, to avoid the pitfalls of the past, save themselves emotional time, and then so that they can rebuild and recover their life, right? So that they can turn their pain into purpose. Because even when you go through a divorce, you can't waste any part of it, right? And I myself have gone through a divorce, and to be able to come out of the shame and guilt of that and stand in it, and then help other women to stand in it courageously is really my why. So that's
Wow,
me.
that is so good. And I hope someone, if you'll just put in the chat, don't fall into the pitfalls of the past. That's good. That is really good. And just the fact of showing up, you know, who you are. We've had several conversations and you're always so vibrant and, you know, always positive. And just tell us a little bit about your story because the victory at the end is
Yeah.
that you are remarried
Yes,
and a
yes,
wonderful, beautiful relationship. But can you just tell us what did it take for you to get there?
absolutely. So in 2013, I found myself going through a divorce. Uh, sometimes as women we say, "Well, I never saw that coming," and the truth is, if you go back and look in your memory bank, you saw some things, but we may have ignored them.
Right?
Um, and so I found myself in that place, and it was absolutely devastating. So 2013 is what I call the year of devastation, but not destroyed,
Mhm.
because as I went through that thing, right, as my husband and former husband and I had decided that we were going to separate, it was over. 6 weeks from there, my mom passed suddenly. So now I have the devastation of two major losses within such a
Yeah.
short span of time that I didn't know whether I was coming or going. I didn't know which grief I was dealing with on the particular, I had no idea. But what I was determined to do, and that was I was determined to get up and live again. And I just every day I made a decision that I was going to choose me and that I was going to do the work necessary, because I think for when people hear, is this easy 1, 2, 3, you just but
Mm,
it's not quite that easy. And I shudder when I hear that, because and I'll talk about that this evening, and when I talk about these tips to moving on, you have to be able to give yourself the space to grieve, because if you don't, you're going to be back in the pitfall of the past.
wow.
So so for me, I sought counseling. So when you talk about, what things worked for me, it was seeking counseling so that I could get clear on who I was now. As a divorced woman, you were married, you were in a particular role, you couples trip, whatever, right? You were in
Yeah.
that life. And now, who are you? So really, then I had to go back to the foundation of who Felicia was, to the core values of me. What did I like doing? What did I not like doing? What were my faults, right? Because I think that's the other thing that we avoid looking at, is we'll say, well, it was him, it was all these things he did, he didn't, and he didn't. But there were two people in the marriage. And so I challenge women, and I know this may be unconventional, because while you're in the middle of pain, You don't you don't want to look at you. You
Right.
have somebody else to take on this blame, right? But it's really important again to avoid the pitfalls of the past, and so you can save yourself the emotional time that it's going to take you to come out of this place. You have to then account for what were your shortcomings, right? And the
Wow.
marriage failed, but you are not a failure. And I think if we can start to look at how we view divorce, it should be a new opportunity to discover who you are, right?
Mm,
Rather than avoiding or like saying like, well, I'm shame. And these are all the emotions I had to deal with. So I'm not talking from a place of, just I think these were shame, guilt, disappointment, failure, insecurity, bitterness, anger, rage
right.
sometimes, all of those things. And I call that of course the emotional roller coaster that we go through. So I spent time and I pressed into my pain. Like if my counselor gave me an assignment, it may have been hard, but I did it because it was necessary.
Wow.
And I went through my journey as if because when they say if you don't go around that tree right the first time, you're gonna wind up back. I did not. I knew that if I did not allow myself to heal, that I could be back in something that would harm me in the worst way or
Wow.
worse. So there was almost like this. I can't. I have to do it right. I have to go through the pain and go through what I need to go through to get to the light.
That is so good. And I can relate. So I haven't spoken about this, but I know people might have noticed the my last name change from Denton Davis going back to Denton. So as someone who is recently divorced, this is now it's been a couple of years, but I can relate to every single thing that you're saying. And I think one of the things for me in the beginning that was really difficult is you do feel the shame, right? I felt ashamed and the embarrassment. And
Oh,
then it's like, oh my goodness, this didn't work. And then you're used to this lifestyle, right? I was used to being Mrs. I
yeah,
was used to this lifestyle, used to having this partner, good, bad, or indifferent.
right.
We were still a partnership.
Yes.
It was still two. Now it's going down to one. And I'll tell you something really funny because I am an empty nester or was an empty nester. But within the first year of our separation, there was so many different things because it was just the two of us in the house. So I'm like, oh goodness, I got to take out the garbage. Oh boy, what does that look good? And now I have to shovel the snow myself. So, and then even in terms of groceries, right? I'm like, now I have to shop for one instead of two. What does that look like? And I started saying things to myself like, can't they sell just like a half a dozen of eggs or a half a loaf of bread?
Or one chicken breast or one.
Right, exactly. Because now I'm wasting food, but there were so many different transitions, and I
Oh,
had to give myself time.
yes.
So for women that are really dealing with being embarrassed, right, and
Mm,
being ashamed,
mm.
what would you say to them? What does that look like? And then how long does it last?
Yeah, good questions. Those are good questions. I think that when we talk about shame and guilt, it's gonna bring up things that are deeper.
Mm,
And it's not now, it's no longer just about the marriage, but if you've got childhood traumas, I'm talking all that stuff is coming up.
wow.
So you gotta now figure out, okay, why do I feel the shame and guilt? Is it because I was told that I was not anything or that I was worthless? Where is that coming from? So get to the source and the root of
Mm,
the shame and guilt. And that's why it takes someone outside of you. It's like I root for support groups. My and no shame, I went through one. However, the support group is not going to challenge you the way that you are going to need to be challenged in order
mm,
to move forward, because everybody in there is in the same space as you are.
right,
You're all sharing the same idea, but nobody is is getting forward. Nobody is right. Everybody just keeps bringing up their pain, but who's
right,
helping you resolve it and move forward? And
right.
so I would say to those women who walk, first of all, know your circle. You need people that you can trust their no. that you can trust when they say, sis, is that real? Or is
Mm,
that you just, you know, they can challenge your toxic thinking during this time. But the truth of the matter is, it's going to uproot other um, issues that you now have to deal with that you probably could have stuffed with the marriage, but now it's just you.
right. That's good.
So, so
Yeah.
yeah. And so, what was your other question? I'm sorry, I was answering that.
So, um,
That's a good one.
I talked about the process, like the time.
Oh,
So I know, and I think what you said is really important too about knowing your circle, and
yes,
then also having someone and sometimes seeking professional help to help you get through
yes,
this, which I did, and
yes,
I'm an advocate for that as well. Someone that'll do more than just listen.
yes,
It's good to get it out, and it's good to have someone to vent to, but you need someone that's going to come back and really challenge, like you said, challenge your thinking. But so I know there are some women, it might be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. There's still some women that I know 15 years later,
I did too.
still talking about, oh my goodness, and how terrible it was or what that other person did, 15, 20 years later. What is healthy?
Yeah.
Like what's a healthy time period if there is one?
Absolutely. Good question. And so I would say at least 1 to 2 years,
Mhm.
realistically. And this is why I say there's really no quick fix to get, because there are so many. It's like you've got a ball of emotions and you have to pick apart each one of those emotions. Now I'm not saying that you'll spend the rest of your life doing that, but
Right.
you got to at least give yourself minimum 6 months,
Yeah.
at minimum, but at least a year, year and a half, you ought to start to have a different view on
Mhm.
life. Things should start to feel a little lighter. Let me give you one tip as to how you'll know. If someone brings up that former spouse and you have a visceral response,
Mhm. You're not ready.
you're stuck.
You're still, yes.
Or if somebody triggers you with something, you're in a particular scenario and something it just draws you back to the pain. Now, those moments will happen, don't get me wrong, but they should start to get less and less and further apart. It's much like grief. But
Yeah.
it's also important, and I try to share with women, or not try, I do share with women that you have to mark your milestones, because we'll think that we haven't gotten anywhere and we feel like we're stuck, when in fact, man, if you look back 6 months ago, you were not thinking this way. Your thinking is different, or your emotions are, you don't have the angst and the shame and you can now stand confident. So mark your milestones so oh wow, I was at the I was at the family house and somebody asked about John. They didn't know he was, and I was okay. Mark
Right.
that down. Like that, the small things, so that
Yeah.
you know that you're progressing and you keep going because you can see your progress and not feel like you're not moving forward.
One of the things that I experience, and then, so it's being with a certain person for a certain amount of time.
Mhm,
So for me, it was 15 years.
mhm,
And after that, after my I'll say, okay, 2 years separation. And I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to start dating again. Might have been like a year and a half. But when I found myself, I was afraid of that because I'm like, okay, now I think it was a matter of showing your flaws, right? So
yeah,
all of the things about ourselves that it's like, okay, now I have to show someone else has to see my flaws.
yeah,
This person was already used to them, knew about it, it was okay.
yes,
Now I have to make all of these not changes, but now I have to get comfortable.
yes, yes.
And that was something difficult. So what are some things that you can share with us about, after we've gotten to that point where we can start to date again?
Mhm, mhm.
Um, what are some tips that you can give us for that?
Yeah, that's really important as well. First of all, knowing when you're ready, right? And that is key. And so don't feel like first of all, I would say don't compare your journey, because if you look over at your circle of sister friends, right, and they all boot up or they got, and you're still you might be the single one out, and then you start thinking you need to make moves so
Right.
you're not the single one out, and then you make the wrong move, and then you're back in the same scenario. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a cycle that it can lead you to. So the
Right.
first thing is to know that you're ready. You're first of all, you've taken the time to understand you, to be
Mhm.
okay with being able to show your flaws and say, listen, this is me. Okay, unless it's toxic and you know it's something you need to deal with, because you don't want to put that on somebody and just say, well, this is how I am. So which is another. These are all
Oh,
the myths I bust up.
that's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show.
This is who I am. Yes.
Yeah, this is who I am. You just got to deal with it. Well, if that's not working, if that's check
Right.
that. But knowing that you're ready. Number one, am I ready to start dating again? Am I confident and comfortable in who I am, so that I am bringing the authentic me and not the past me, right? And so that to me would be the first biggest thing. Know that when you're ready, and know when you're not. For me, I had been off the scene for Mm, goodness, it was at least 5 years.
Wow.
Monique, I didn't trust myself to even know that I could be in another relationship.
Yeah.
Even though I had gone through the journey and I, healed, I was like, okay, I don't even know, can I talk to another guy, right? So that's what I did. I got a
Right.
relationship coach.
Yes.
And my relationship coach helped me understand how to engage with the opposite sex without taking it to you had a conversation and now all of a sudden you Miss Jones.
Right. That is so real. Wait, Mike drop. I gotta find. Yeah. That is so real. That is so real. Because even thinking about, wow, can I do this? And then it's also an awkward stage.
Oh, yes.
So, it's an awkward stage. Like, how do I act? What do I do? It's feeling uncomfortable. And then, like you said, knowing, because now you're ready to not repeat what
Yes.
you did before, but looking at, okay, what is it that I can do differently? Having an outside person like a coach to say to you, to be able to help you identify those things, I think is absolutely great. So for you, did you have a coach?
Yes, I got a relationship coach, and
Okay.
she was and we're still we still chat today, like, hey girl, how's it going? Because literally, as I started to engage with my now wonderful husband, um I had to, like, hey, is this right? Should we be moving at this pace? I mean, I was so ever careful, and because I wanted to make sure that I entered in authentically, that I was showing up right, and making space for us to have a successful relationship, for me to be able to identify if there were red flags, right? Because again, I've been off living my best life. So,
Right.
now to start, getting back into this dating scene was kind of like, okay, all right, let me see. And I will tell you, I started off with one eye open. I was like,
Mm,
oh no, this is too good. He seems too good to be true. I mean, he's a man of God. Of course, it's all the things that I've been praying to God for, right? But when he shows up, you still like, but my relationship coach really helped me understand. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. On our third conversation of talking, before we got off the phone, he said, we forgot to do something. And I said, oh, what was that? And he said, we didn't pray. And I
mm.
was like, "Mm,
Look, is this person, is
is
this man
is
real?
this a real man? Is this a real?" And I didn't do it with him. I said, "Oh no, well, maybe next time we can pray." So then I called my coach. I said, "Hey," I said, "he wants to pray with me. Should I be doing this with him?" Because to me, prayer is intimate. It is a time
Right.
where you're opening yourself up. You've allowed somebody in, right? And she
Right.
asked me these questions. And this is why I tell you it's key to get somebody. She said, "Well, are you building a friendship?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Would you pray with a friend?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And she said, "Well, pray with him. Why are you?"
That is good. Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
we can get in places where our minds are just going 1,000 miles a minute, and we miss opportunities as we're building, because we don't have that perspective, right? Or we don't have a different view of looking at things. So my relationship coach was everything and helped me really navigate that space of starting to date again, so that I could do it right.
So now, when do you think is the best time, or is there a specific time frame that you recommend after divorce, that you get a divorce coach?
That is good. I believe you have to determine when you're ready. Because a
Mm,
divorce coach like me, first of
mhm,
all, I'm coming in to help bust up some stuff. So,
mm,
and not in a bad way, but
yeah,
if you're not ready to face and deal with the pain and unsort through those emotions, it's going to be hard for you to be able to do the work that's necessary. So, I would say minimum, if you're ready, 6 months out.
mhm,
If you're ready to start working through some things because you got some, you're clear, the divorce has happened, because that's the other
right,
thing. For me, I'm the divorce recovery coach that's on the other side of your divorce. I'm not the one who's preparing you and telling you what lawyers, because I believe in marriage. And so that would just go against everything in my core. But I know
right,
that it happens. And I know there are divorce coaches that do that, and no shame to them. Because
mhm,
you need somebody at every spectrum, right?
yes, yes,
So, but I do believe at least 6 months out if you're ready. If you're ready sooner, you've been separated. There's so many scenarios. You could have been separated for a year, and you
right,
finally got a divorce. Well, boom, you're ready. You're
right,
ready out the gate because you
yes,
had that time of clarity,
yeah,
and now you're ready to do the work to heal and transfer. Because I think that's the thing. Just because you have been separated, this is a whole new journey of divorce,
yes,
because you're no longer the name, the position, the title, the all of that. There's just a new land to be able to navigate. And you know what? If you get through it and you decide, hey, I'm good. Yes, I had that support. I did that check just to make sure I'm good. It's not something you need to do for years, I wouldn't say.
right,
But at least to make sure that you're moving forward healthily,
mhm,
authentically, and what I say courageously, authentic, and noble,
wow.
so that you can again.
So what I'm also getting, and for women that are viewing the broadcast, I think it's important too to be able to identify, because you said 6 months. I'm thinking there might be some women who have been divorced for years and not even realize that they need a divorce coach.
Oh,
Not
yes.
even realize some of the things that might not be going right in their life now, or
Yep.
some of the things that aren't right that they need to mend, fix, or heal
Yes.
from, is because they haven't actually healed and moved on from the divorce.
Yes.
So, keeping that in mind, do you have any clients, or have you coached any women that have come to you, look, 5 years, 6 years plus later?
I haven't had any that have come to me that late in the game. Most of them come pretty much about the 4 month mark, because they're in
Mhm.
so much pain that they're just, they're needing help. But I will tell you, I have witnessed women who think because they've gotten in another, and this is the thing, women use, unfortunately, will use, I've gotten in another relationship and I'm good,
Right,
until he press presses the wrong button. And then you're
right.
like, oh my God, I didn't.
What's going on here?
Don't let that be
Exactly.
your measuring stick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I talk about the markers of how you know that you're stuck,
Mm,
and it is the places, if someone, number one is somebody brings up this person, and you are taken back to when y'all, and it could be 20 years, and that I have seen personally in my own life, like
yeah,
literally with my own parents.
yeah,
So I had an up close walk with that kind of anger and bitterness, that it is just like, wow. And time is another myth I bust up. Time does not heal wounds.
mm,
It's what you do with the time that will heal wounds. But people think, 5 years I'm good,
right.
2 years I'm good. You what have you done with the time that you had?
Mm. Somebody needs to put that in the chat. Time does not heal wounds, but it is what you do with that time that heals wounds. And I like that indicator. One of the indicators in the markers that you gave us in terms of how you react. So I would ask for more, but I'm not going to, because I feel like those that need to reach out, if you're listening and you know that you need this assistance, you know that you need help through this journey, and it's a journey.
It's a
It's
journey.
it's a new season. It's a new beginning. And if
Yes.
you need assistance, reach out. A lot of times we don't reach out and get the professional help that's there and available to us. But when you are able to see someone and speak to someone who is a living witness, you can get through this, it's going to be good, and you can move forward. You need to access these resources. So with that, everyone can see your website is at the bottom of the screen, yes. www.IamFeliciaRoberts.com. You gave us some good stuff, but I want to know if you can leave us with three tips
yes.
that we can do. And I want to, we have to have a part 2 because we have to get to the dating.
Yes. Okay? Yes.
We need to get to the dating app. That's a whole nother show.
Yes.
But if you can give us 3 tips on things that we can do or should do immediately after divorce, what would that be?
That's good. The first thing I believe that you have to acknowledge that the marriage is over.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't acknowledge that the marriage is over and you think there's still opportunity, you haven't done your work to end the marriage. So you first have to acknowledge it's over, it's done. And so first thing is just to acknowledge that it's over. The second step or tip that I would say, because these aren't in any particular order, but the second thing that I would say is you cut ties. Not that you will have to cut ties forever, but your social circles, social media, no social media stalking, okay? Because we're not trying to check and see if he's living his best life and what he's doing. And we're not if you were friends on social media, block and delete. Okay? So thinking about the areas that you might have been connected and I don't say to women that it's forever, but it is in this time that you are recovering and rebuilding your life, you're going to have to be desperate enough to do things that you've never done in order to heal. So 2, cutting ties with every area that you believe will cause you to stay stuck. Okay. The third thing I would say is choose your support system wisely. Everybody cannot go, and I'm a nurse. I didn't share that, but I'm a nurse for 30 years. So I see things from a different lens. And when you think about the recovery room, when you have surgery and you go on, there's nobody else in the recovery room. It's you and that nurse.
Right.
So thinking about your support system, everybody can't go in the recovery room with you. Are these supportive friends, or are these friends that's going to cause you to stay stuck? Are they wise? Can they give you wise counsel? Right? You might have to cut some of them off until you get through the place that you can handle those particular types of friendships. So those would be the 3 things that I would say, or 3 tips that I would leave with our viewers and our community.
That was really good. And I would recommend that women and men, even if you were not married, but if you were in a long-term relationship that has ended, that's still a divorce. You still go through grief. That is still a reason, because those things that you talked about. So first of all, you have to accept the fact that it's over. It's done. It's over.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It's over. And then accepting the fact, like you said, just cut the ties. And sometimes that sounds harsh. Well, I was close with this one. Well, I was close with that one. But one of the things that I even realized is that it's nothing personal to anyone else, but it is critical in terms of your healing process and being able to move on.
Yes.
And then talking about the social media, look, we do that. Even before not even marriage, you looking to see, okay, what's going on? What they doing now? Stop. Look,
stop. Just stop, because it's going to keep you in the turmoil. It's going to keep you stuck. You have to cut it. And even your faith-based, so just thinking about the places that you could stay, that it could keep you connected. Music. I talk about this in one of my other videos on Instagram, but music, movies, places, all of those things you got to think about. But this is you time, sis. It's about you now. And what do you need from you? This is time for you to pay attention to what you need so that you can heal.
This is so good. Listen, I hope so. That was a brilliant ending. This is the time that you need so you can heal. Listen, everyone, if you want to connect with Felicia, Coach Fee. First, Coach Fee, how can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at I am Felicia Roberts, and I'm on Facebook at Felicia Roberts. So you can catch
Okay.
me there with my
Instagram,
tips and
I am Felicia Roberts. Facebook, Felicia Roberts. Also, one of our phenomenal women that are part of the SIS Network, 50 phenomenal women. This was part one. Stay tuned for part two once you get to that dating step.
All right.
Coach Fee, thank you. This has been awesome. I
Excellent.
really appreciate you being here. Look, the comments are blowing up. Women want more information. So we will definitely be back with a part two.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.